It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever.
Thus begins the short story of Edgar Allan Poe called The Telltale Heart. When the old man heard the killer come into his room one night, he sprang out of bed and cried, "Who's there?" The killer slowly opened the lantern until a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out of the crevice and full upon the vulture eye.
It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray, as if by instinct, precisely upon the damned spot. There came to my ears a lull, dull, quick sound such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum stimulates a soldier into courage. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment.
The noise terrified the killer. What if the neighbors heard? With a loud yell, he turned the lantern up and leaped into the room. The old man screamed once before the killer dragged him to the floor and threw the heavy mattress over him. For many minutes the heart beat on with a muffled sound. Finally it stopped. The old man was dead.
Poe's horror stories are generally psychological studies of guilt, obsession, compulsion, and madness. But putting the horror aside, we can learn things about writing fiction from Poe's excellent short story style.
Poe conceives with deliberate care a certain unique or single effect. In his writing, every sentence, every word, contributes to this single effect. Poe provides descriptive detail of the setting and atmosphere so that he evokes emotion from the reader. Poe uses comparisons to convey something of the mysterious feelings his narrator is experiencing. Hopefully you notice Poe's richness of descriptive detail and his comparison of the ray of light to a spider thread and the beating heart to a ticking watch. In every word he writes, he crafts a single effect: terror. The Raven is Poe's most famous poem. In it he strives for an effect of gloom. Here are stanzas 1, 2, 7, and 18.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, "tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. Open here I flung a shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least my obeisance made he, not a minute stop for stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more.
Now, jumping to the last stanza.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.